So, when I was in business school, one of my professors used to always say that if you want to succeed in business, you have to be like water. Now, at the time, I didn't really understand what he meant by that. But as I got deeper into business and even started my own company, I began to realize what he was talking about. You see, water is one of the most adaptable substances on the planet. It can take on different forms, whether it's ice or liquid water or water vapor, and it can also adapt to its environment. Water can be in a cup, water can be in a glass, water can be in an ocean. It adapts to its environment, and in doing so, it's able to survive everywhere. And this is exactly how your business needs to be if it wants to survive. You need to be able to adapt to your environment, change forms if necessary, and be able to pivot quickly. And being able to do these things means that you have to be agile. I remember a few years ago, there were all these articles coming out that were saying that email is dead. People are no longer going to use email. They're just going to use messaging apps instead. And a lot of companies panicked. They thought email was going away forever. And so they tried to reinvent themselves. They tried to become something that they're not. And in doing so, they actually hurt their business. Their revenues went down. Their profitability went down. Now, one company that didn't do that was Dropbox. Dropbox could have panicked when they read those headlines and said, "Okay, we're an email company. People aren't going to use emails anymore, so let's pivot to messaging apps." But they didn't do that because they knew that the data didn't support that claim. Yes, people were using messaging apps more and more, but that did not mean that email was going away. In fact, email was still growing year after year. And so they stayed true to themselves. They continued doing what they were doing, which is providing a great service around file sharing via email. And because of that, look at where Dropbox is today. They're a multi-billion-dollar company. And the same thing happened with Google. A few years ago, everyone was talking about how Google is dead. Google Search, people aren't going to use Google Search anymore. They're going to use these new search engines that are popping up, like DuckDuckGo, for example. And Google could have panicked and tried to reinvent itself, but they didn't. Instead, they focused on what made them successful in the first place, which is providing relevant search results. And they continued to invest in improving their algorithms, improving their infrastructure, and look at where Google is today. Even though there are dozens of other search engines out there, Google is still the dominant player in search. In fact, if you go to a website called SimilarWeb, which provides analytics on websites and apps, if you go and you type in Google.com, then go to Desktop, United States, and then scroll down and go to top subcategories, you'll see that Google is the #1 website in the world for search engines. It gets 2.6 billion visits per month. The second-place website in this category is Bing, which gets 488 million visits per month. That's less than 1/5 of what Google gets. And one of the reasons why Google is so successful is because they're so adaptable. They're so agile. Let me give you an example of this. So a few weeks ago, I was interning at a company, and one of the things that they were working on was an AI chatbot, kind of like ChatGPT. And they were asking me, "Hey, what do you think about our chatbot? What do you think we should name it? Should we name it Bard?" I said, "Well, that's a good name, but it's already taken. There's already a very popular app called Bard," and they were like, "Oh, we didn't know that." So this goes to show you that Google is always adapting. They're always looking at new technologies and figuring out how they can integrate that into their products and services. For example, when social media was becoming more and more popular, Google didn't try to build their own social media platform. Instead, they bought YouTube and they adapted YouTube to fit within their ecosystem. Same thing when mobile became more and more popular. Google didn't try to build their own phone. Instead, they created Android, and they adapted Android to fit within their ecosystem. And this is the same strategy that they're taking with AI. Google is not trying to build their own AI chatbot. Instead, they're integrating AI technology into their existing products and services. Whether it's search or YouTube or Maps, or Gmail. And this is what makes Google so adaptable. This is what makes Google so agile. And this is what allows them to stay at the top of the food chain when it comes to search. In fact, if you go back in history, you'll see that Google has always been adaptable. In the early 2000s, Google was just a search engine. But when the iPhone came out in 2007, Google realized that the way people were searching was changing. People were now using their phones to search. And so Google created a mobile version of their website. And this allowed them to capture a whole new market of mobile users. In fact, if you go to the website for SimilarWeb and then type in Google.com, then go to Mobile, United States, and then scroll down and go to top subcategories, you'll see that Google is still the #1 website in the world for mobile search. It gets 3.5 billion visits per month. The second-place website in this category is Yahoo, which gets 259 million visits per month. That's less than 1/10 of what Google gets. And Google's ability to adapt has also allowed them to stay at the top of the food chain when it comes to online advertising. As I'm sure you know, online advertising is a huge industry, and Google is the dominant player in this industry as well. In fact, according to Statista, Google had a revenue share of 28.4% in 2022 when it comes to the search engine advertising market. The next closest competitor is Microsoft, which only had a revenue share of 8.3%. That's less than 1/3 of what Google has, and this dominance in online advertising is due to Google's ability to adapt to changes in user behavior. For example, when people started using their phones to search, Google created a mobile version of their ads platform, allowing advertisers to reach mobile users. And when social media became more and more popular, Google created ad platforms for social media sites like YouTube and Gmail. And this ability to adapt has allowed Google to capture a large portion of the online advertising market. And Google's ability to adapt has also allowed them to stay at the top of the food chain when it comes to cloud computing. If you don't know, Google Cloud is one of the 3 dominant players in cloud computing along with AWS and Microsoft Azure. And Google's ability to adapt has allowed them to gain a foothold in this market. For example, when businesses started moving to the cloud, Google created cloud services that were specifically designed for businesses. And this has allowed them to attract a large number of business customers. So, overall, Google's ability to adapt has allowed them to stay at the top of the food chain in multiple industries. And this is because Google understands the importance of agility. They know that in order to be successful, they have to be able to adapt to changes in technology and user behavior. And they've been able to do this better than any of their competitors. And this is the same thing that you need to do if you want to be successful. You have to be able to adapt to changes in your industry and be able to pivot quickly. And in order to do this, you need to be agile. You need to have the ability to move quickly and make decisions fast. And this is something that you can improve over time. It's not something that you're born with. It's a skill that you can develop. So if you want to be successful, you need to focus on building your agility. You need to focus on being able to adapt to changes in your industry and be able to pivot quickly. Now, of course, this isn't easy. It's actually quite difficult to do. But if you really want to be successful, if you want to build a business that lasts for decades, then you need to focus on building your agility. You need to focus on being like water, because just like water, your business needs to be able to take on different forms. Your business needs to be able to adapt to its environment. And if you can do these things, then you'll be able to survive no matter what the market throws at you. Thank you so much for watching, and see you next time.